Imagine stepping into a quiet English village at dawn, the air thick with mist, the cobblestone streets glistening under your feet. You're strolling past a grand old manor when you hear a scream, sharp, desperate, cutting through the silence. Your heart races as you approach the wrought iron gates of Yew Tree Lodge. Inside, a man lies dead, sprawled across a lavish dining room table, a handful of rye grains spilling from his pocket. The maid who found him is trembling, whispering about. A nursery rhyme that's haunted her since childhood, sing a song of sixpence, a pocket full of rye. What does it mean? Why is this man dead? And why does it feel like the killer is watching, waiting to strike again? Welcome to Miss Marple's puzzle of a pocket full of rye, where every clue is a thread in a tapestry of murder, and only one sharp mind can unravel it. Stick with me as we dive into this chilling mystery, inspired by Agatha Christie's classic, and uncover the secrets hidden in a pocket full of rye. The scene is set in the sleepy village of St. Mary Mead, where nothing ever happens until it does. Yew Tree Lodge, a sprawling manor owned by the wealthy Rex Fortescue, is the heart of our story. Rex, a ruthless businessman with more enemies than friends, is found dead one crisp autumn morning, poisoned at his own breakfast table. His body is slumped over a plate of untouched toast, a cup of tea spilled across the tablecloth, and strangest of all, a scattering of rye grains in his pocket. The maid, Ellen, is the first to discover him, her scream echoing through the house. The police are stumped, the family is in chaos, and whispers of that eerie nursery rhyme begin to spread. Enter Miss Jane Marple, a frail, elderly spinster with a knack for noticing what others miss. She's no detective, not officially, but her sharp eyes and sharper mind have solved mysteries that left Scotland Yard scratching their heads. Today, we're diving into the first piece of this puzzle, the crime scene itself, and why those rye grains might hold the key to everything. Let's paint the picture. Yew Tree Lodge is all dark wood and heavy curtains, the kind of place where secrets linger in the shadows. Rex Fortescue was a man who made his fortune cutting corners and breaking promises, so it's no surprise he had enemies. His much younger wife, Adele, is glamorous but cold, sipping martinis while the police question her. His son, Percival, is a nervous, buttoned-up accountant who seems more worried about the family business than his father's death. And then there's Lance, the prodigal son, who's just returned from abroad with a shady past and a charming smile. The household is rounded out by a cast of servants, each with their own grudges and gossip. But it's those rye grains that keep nagging at Miss Marple. Why would a killer leave such a bizarre clue? Is it a taunt, a symbol, or something far more sinister? She recalls the nursery rhyme, sing a song of sixpence, a pocket full of rye. For in 20 blackbirds baked in a pie, it's an odd, almost childish detail. But Miss Marple knows better than to dismiss it. In her experience, the smallest clues often hide the darkest truths. As Miss Marple sips her tea and observes the family, she starts piecing things together. The poison, taxine, comes from the yew trees outside the lodge, a chillingly local choice. Was it someone in the house, a servant with a grudge, a family member with a motive? Or is there an outsider lurking in St. Mary Mead? Someone who knows more than they're letting on? The police are focused on the obvious: money, jealousy, revenge, but Miss Marple's mind is elsewhere. She's thinking about patterns, about rhymes, about the kind of killer who leaves a calling card as cryptic as rye. By the end of this chapter, one thing is clear: this isn't just a murder. It's a puzzle, and the pieces are scattered across Yew Tree Lodge, waiting for someone clever enough to fit them together. So, what's next? Another death rocks the household, and the nursery rhyme takes on an even darker meaning. Will Miss Marple spot the next clue before it's too late? Stay tuned for Chapter 2, where the mystery deepens and the stakes get higher. If you're loving this suspenseful ride, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next twist. And let me know in the comments, who do you think poisoned Rex Fortescue? Let's unravel this together. The mist hasn't lifted from St. Mary Mead, and neither has the shadow over Yew Tree Lodge. Just as the shock of Rex Fortescue's murder begins to settle, another tragedy strikes, tightening the knot of suspense in this chilling mystery. The nursery rhyme, sing a song of sixpence, a pocket full of rye, is no longer just a creepy coincidence, it's a blueprint, a twisted script the killer is following. In this chapter, we dive deeper into the puzzle as Miss Marple uncovers new clues and a second death sends the household into a tailspin. The rye was only the beginning. Now the second verse of the rhyme comes to life, and it's more sinister than anyone imagined. Grab your tea, settle in, and let's unravel the next piece of Miss Marple's puzzle of a pocket full of rye. The morning after Rex's death, Yew Tree Lodge is a house on edge. The police are still combing the dining room for evidence, but the family is restless. Adele Fortescue, the glamorous widow, is lounging in a silk dressing gown, painting her nails, as if her husband's murder is just an inconvenience. Percival, the eldest son, is holed up in his father's study, poring over ledgers. Muttering about the family business, Lance, the charming but wayward younger son, is pacing the halls, his easy smile hiding something darker. The servant sullen, the maid, Crump the butler, and Gladys, the nervous parlour maid, are whispering in corners, their eyes darting toward the yew trees outside. Miss Marple, invited to stay by an old friend of the family, sits quietly in the drawing room, her knitting needles clicking like a metronome. She's watching, listening, and thinking about that nursery rhyme. The first verse, a pocket full of rye, marked Rex's death. What comes next? The second line, for and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie. It's a grim thought, but Miss Marple's instincts tell her the killer isn't done. Then it happens. A scream pierces the air, this time from the kitchen. Gladys, the young parlour maid, is found dead, her body crumpled on the floor near the pantry. Her face is pale, her eyes wide with terror, and a strange detail catches everyone's attention. A cloth espin is clipped to her nose. The police. Baffled, but Miss Marple's mind races. The cloth espin, the kitchen, the nursery rhyme, it's all connected. She recalls the rhyme's second verse. When the pie was opened, the birds began to sing in olden days. Blackbirds were sometimes baked into pies as a cruel surprise, their wings clipped to keep them still. Is the cloth espin a modern twist on that image, a symbol of silenced birds? Gladys was a shy girl, always humming nervously, always watching the family with wide, frightened eyes. Did she see something she shouldn't have? Did she know something about Rex's death? Miss Marple suspects the killer is taunting them, weaving the rhyme into each murder like a macabre signature. The household is in chaos. Adele faints dramatically, though Miss Marple notes her tears seem more theatrical than genuine. Percival snaps at the police, demanding they do their job and leave his family alone. Lance, oddly calm, offers to help with the investigation, but his smooth charm feels like a mask. The servants are terrified, refusing to work alone in the sprawling house. Inspector Neil, the lead detective, is competent but frustrated, chasing leads about tax and poison and business rivals while missing the bigger picture. Miss Marple, however, is focused on the details. She learns that Gladys had been acting strange for days, jumping at shadows and muttering about blackbirds. She also discovers that Gladys had a habit of eavesdropping, a habit that might have made her a target. Was she the blackbird who saw too much? And if so, what did she know? Miss Marple takes a walk through the gardens, her mind piecing together the puzzle. The yew trees loom overhead, their dark berries a reminder of the poison that killed Rex. She thinks about the rhyme structure. Each verse seems to signal a new death. If the killer is following it, who's next? The third verse mentions a king, a queen, and a maid, each with their own grim fate. She also considers the family's dynamics. Rex was a tyrant, hoarding wealth and alienating everyone around him. Adele's lavish spending suggests she's more interested in his money than his memory. Percival's obsession with the business hints at a deeper resentment, while Lance's sudden return raises questions about his true motives. Even the servants aren't above suspicion. Ellen's sharp tongue hides a wealth of gossip, and Crump's stoic demeanor feels forced. Miss Marple knows the answer lies in the connections between these people, the secrets they're hiding, and the rhyme that ties it all together. As the police cordon off the kitchen, Miss Marple slips into the pantry unnoticed. She finds a small, crumpled note in Gladys's apron pocket. "Beware the blackbirds." It's written in a hurried scroll, and it sends a chill down her spine. Was Gladys trying to warn someone, or was the note meant for her, a clue to her own fate? The suspense thickens as Miss Marple realizes the killer is playing a deadly game, one where every move is calculated, every clue deliberate. She shares her findings with Inspector Neil, who's skeptical but intrigued. He agrees to look into the nursery rhyme angle, though he warns her not to get too involved. Miss Marple smiles politely, but she's already planning her next step. The killer is clever, but she's cleverer, and she's determined to stay one step ahead. By now, the village is buzzing with rumors. Some say Yew Tree Lodge is cursed. Others whisper about a madman on the loose. Miss Marple knows better. This isn't random violence, it's personal, precise, and deeply rooted in the Fortescue family's past. The chapter closes with her sitting by the fire, her knitting needles still, her mind racing. The rhyme is the key, but it's also a trap. If she can crack its meaning, she might stop the killer before the next verse comes true. But time is running out, and the killer is watching. What happens next? The third death shakes St. Mary Mead to its core, and Miss Marple uncovers a secret that the fog over St. Mary Mead grows thicker, mirroring the dread that's settled over Yew Tree Lodge. To death's in as many days Rex Fortescue with his pocket full of rye, and poor Gladys with a cloth espin on her nose have turned the grand manor into a house of fear. The nursery rhyme, "Sing a song of sixpence, a pocket full of rye," is no longer just a chilling echo, it's a roadmap to murder, and the killer is following it with terrifying precision. In this chapter, the third verse comes to life. The king was in his counting house, counting out his money. The queen was in the parlor, eating bread and honey. Miss Marple's sharp mind is racing, piecing together clues as another death rocks the household. The stakes are higher, the suspense is tighter, and the killer's game is far from over. Let's dive into Chapter 3 of Miss Marple's puzzle of a pocket full of rye and uncover what happens when the queen takes center stage. The atmosphere in Yew Tree Lodge is suffocating. The police have set up a temporary headquarters in the library, their footsteps heavy on the creaking floorboards. Inspector Neil is chasing leads about taxing poison and digging into Rex's business dealings, but the answers feel just out of reach. The family is unraveling. Percival Fortescue, the dutiful son, is snapping at everyone. His nerves frayed by the mounting chaos. Lance, the charming drifter, is to calm, his easy grin unsettling in the face of tragedy. The servants are barely holding it together. Ellen mutters darkly about curses, while Crump polishes silver with trembling hands. And then there's Adele Fortescue, Rex's glamorous widow, who seems more annoyed than grieving. She's taken to lounging in the parlor, sipping cocktails and flipping through fashion magazines, as if death hasn't touched her world. But Miss Marple, sitting quietly with her knitting, knows better. Adele is the queen in the nursery, rhyme, and the parlor is her stage. The question is, will she be the next victim, or is she hiding something It happens at dusk, just as the light fades and the shadows lengthen. Adele is found dead in the parlour, her body draped across a velvet. Chaise longue. A half-eaten scone sits on a plate beside her, crumbs scattered like clues. A delicate teacup lies shattered on the floor, its contents staining the rug. The police confirm it's poison again taxine, the same as Rex, but this time there's a new detail. A small jar of honey sits on the table, its lid off, a spoon still inside. Miss Marple's eyes narrow. The Queen was in the parlour, eating bread and honey. The scone. The honey, it's the third verse, played out with eerie accuracy. The household is in uproar. Percival storms out of the room, muttering about. Bad luck. Lance kneels beside Adele's body, his face unreadable. The servants are too terrified to speak, and even Inspector Neil looks shaken. But Miss Marple is already thinking, her mind tracing the threads of the rhyme. 3 deaths, 3 verses. The killer is taunting them, daring them to catch up. Let's break down the scene. The parlour is a lavish room, all gilt mirrors and heavy drapes, but it feels like a tomb now. Adele was alone when she died, or so it seems. The scone was freshly baked, the honey from a local apiary. Was the poison in the food, the tea, or something else? Miss Marple recalls the note she found. In Gladys's apron, beware the blackbirds. Was Adele one of the blackbirds, silenced for what she knew? Or was she targeted for another reason, her money, her secrets, her place in Rex's life? Miss Marple starts asking questions, gently probing the family and staff. She learns that Adele was no saint. She married Rex for his wealth, and rumours swirled about her affairs. She was cruel to Gladys, often snapping at her for small mistakes. Could Gladys have known something about Adele's secrets? And what about the honey? Miss Marple discovers that the jar was a gift, delivered to the house just days ago. With no clear sender, it's another piece of the puzzle, and it's starting to feel like the killer is always one step ahead. The family dynamics come into sharper focus. Percival, who stands to inherit the bulk of Rex's fortune, is cagey about his whereabouts during Adele's death. He claims he was in the study, but no one can confirm it. Lance, meanwhile, is too quick to offer alibis, his charm masking a calculating mind. Miss Marple notices how he watches everyone, like a cat studying mice. The servants are no less suspicious. Ellen, the maid, has a sharp memory for gossip and a grudge against Adele, who once threatened to fire her. Crump, the butler, is oddly quiet, his eyes avoiding Miss Marple's gaze. And then there's the mysterious delivery of the honey jar. Could it point to an outsider? Someone from St. Mary Mead with a vendetta? The air in St. Mary Mead is heavy with secrets, and Yew-Tree Lodge feels like a house holding its breath. 3 deaths: Rex Fortescue with his pocket of rye, Gladys with a cloth espin on her nose, and Adele with her poisoned honey have turned the manor into a stage for a macabre game. The nursery rhyme, sing a song of sixpence. A pocket full of rye is the killer's script, each verse marking a new victim with chilling precision. Now the 4th verse looms. The maid was in the garden, hanging out the clothes, when down came a blackbird and pecked off her nose. Miss Marple's mind is racing, her sharp eyes scanning for the next clue. The killer is bold, taunting, and always one step ahead. But Miss Marple is closing in. In this chapter, the suspense tightens as the rhyme points to a new target, and a shocking discovery threatens to unravel the mystery or deepen it. Let's dive into Chapter 4 of Miss Marple's puzzle of a pocket full of rye, and see if we can stay ahead of the killer. The morning after Adele's death, Yew-Tree Lodge is a fortress of fear. The police have doubled their presence, their boots, trampling the manicured lawns. Inspector Neil is digging deeper into Rex's business rivals, convinced the motive lies in money or revenge. The family is fracturing under the strain. Percival Fortescue locks himself in the study, his face pale and drawn, while Lance prowls the halls, his charm wearing thin. The servants are barely functioning. Ellen, the sharp-tongued maid, snaps at anyone who speaks to her, and Crump, the butler, moves like a ghost, his eyes haunted. Miss Marple, ever the quiet observer, sits in a corner of the drawing-room, her knitting needles clicking softly. She's thinking about the nursery rhyme, about the maid in the garden, the clothesline she saw last night swaying in the breeze. Feels like a warning. Someone in this house is the next target, and she's determined to figure out who before it's too late. The tension breaks at midday. A cry comes from the garden, sharp and panicked. It's Ellen, the maid, found, slumped near the clothesline, a basket of linen spilled at her feet. She's alive barely, but her face is ashen, her breathing shallow. A strange mark on her cheek looks like a burn, or perhaps a bite, and a single black feather lies beside her. The police rush her to the hospital, but the damage is done. The rhyme's fourth verse has come to life. When down came a blackbird and pecked off her nose, the feather is the killer's calling card. A twisted nod to the blackbird in the rhyme. Miss Marple's heart sinks. Ellen wasn't killed, but the attack is a message. The killer is still here, still watching, still playing their deadly game. The household is in chaos. Percival accuses the police of incompetence, his voice cracking with fear. Lance, oddly detached, suggests it might be a prank gone wrong, but his eyes flicker with something unreadable. Crump mutters about leaving, his loyalty to the family crumbling. Miss Marple examines the scene. The garden is a quiet corner of the estate, bordered by yew trees and a low stone wall. The clothesline is strung between two posts, and the spilled linens are pristine, untouched by the struggle. The black feather is the key. It's not from a local bird, but something exotic, like a raven or a crow. Miss Marple recalls the note from Gladys's apron. Beware the blackbirds. The word keeps coming up. Blackbirds in the rhyme, blackbirds in the note, and now this feather. Is it a symbol of betrayal, of secrets, or something more personal? She learns that Ellen had been acting strangely since Rex's death, whispering to Crump about things she'd seen in the house. Was Ellen targeted because she knew too much, like Gladys, or was the attack a warning to someone else? Miss Marple suspects the killer is toying with them, using the rhyme to sow fear and confusion. The family's secrets start to surface. Miss Marple chats with Mary Dove, the efficient housekeeper who's been curiously absent from suspicion. Mary reveals that Ellen had a habit of snooping, often lingering near closed doors. She also mentions a heated argument between Ellen and Adele days before the first murder. Something about a missing necklace. Could Ellen have stumbled onto a clue about the killer? Miss Marple also digs into the family's past. Rex's fortune came from shady mining deals in Africa, and there are whispers of a scandal involving a partner who vanished years ago, Lance, who spent time abroad. Might know more about that than he's letting on. Percival, meanwhile, is obsessed with protecting the family business, but Miss Marple notices he's avoiding questions about his father's will. And then there's the feather. Mary admits it resembles one from a decorative hat Adele owned, a detail that sends Miss Marple's mind spinning. Is the killer using items from the fog in St. Mary? Mead clings like a shroud, and yew tree lodge feels more like a crypt than a home. 3 murders. Rex Fortescue with his pocket of rye, Gladys with a cloth espin, Adele with her poisoned honey, and an attack on Ellen, marked by a black feather, have left the household teetering on the edge of panic. The nursery rhyme, sing a song of sixpence, a pocket full of rye, is the killer's playbook. Each verse a chilling prophecy of death. Miss Marple, with a quiet demeanor and razor-sharp mind, is piecing together the clues, but the killer is always one step ahead, weaving a web of fear and misdirection. In this chapter, A secret from the Fortescue family's past comes to light, casting new shadows over the mystery. The suspense tightens as Miss Marple digs deeper, and a startling revelation brings her closer to the truth or to danger. Let's dive into Chapter 5 of Miss Marple's puzzle of a pocket full of rye, and uncover what lies buried in the past. The morning after Ellen's attack, Yew-Tree Lodge is a house under siege. The police have cordoned off the garden and inspector. Neil is combing through evidence, his frustration growing. The black feather, the scrap of fabric. The poison, it's all too theatrical, to deliberate. The family is unraveling. Percival Fortescue, pale and jumpy, avoids everyone, clutching his father's ledgers like a lifeline. Lance, the prodigal son, is to calm, his charm now tinged with menace as he lingers in doorways watching. The servants are barely holding on. Crump, the butler, is silent and withdrawn, while Mary Dove, the housekeeper, moves with a cool efficiency that feels almost perfect. Miss Marple, knitting quietly in the drawing-room, is thinking about the nursery rhyme. The maid in the garden was Ellen, but the attack didn't end in death. Was it a warning, a mistake, or a shift in the killer's plan? And what comes next? The rhyme's verses are running out, but the danger feels closer than ever. Miss Marple's attention turns to the past. She's starting to suspect that the murders are rooted in something older, something tied to Rex Fortescue's ruthless climb to wealth. Over tea with Mary Dove, she gently probes for information. Mary, sharp and observant, reveals a tidbit that sends a chill through the room. Years ago, Rex was involved in a mining scandal in Africa. A partner, a man named Mackenzie, accused Rex of cheating him out of a fortune. Mackenzie vanished soon after, and rumors swirled that he died, or worse, some said he had a family, a wife and children left destitute. Could the blackbirds refer to them? Miss Marple recalls the note in Gladys's apron. Beware the blackbirds. Was it a reference to this old betrayal? She decides to dig deeper, asking Inspector Neil to look into Mackenzie's fate. The inspector is skeptical but agrees, intrigued by her theory that the killer is settling an old score. The day takes a darker turn when Miss Marple finds a hidden drawer in Rex's study. Tucked behind a false panel, inside is a bundle of letters yellowed with age, addressed to Rex in a scrawled, angry hand. They're from Mackenzie's wife, begging for money, cursing Rex for ruining her family. The final letter is chilling. You'll pay for what you did. The blackbirds will come for you. Miss Marple's pulse quickens. This is no coincidence. The killer is using the rhyme to echo Mackenzie's vengeance. But who could it be? Mackenzie's wife, a child grown up and seeking revenge, or someone closer? Someone in Yew-Tree Lodge who knows the story? She shares the letters with Inspector Neil, who's now convinced the motive lies in Rex's past. He starts tracing Mackenzie's family, but Miss Marple warns him to look closer to home. The killer's knowledge of the house, the rhyme, the Yew-Trees it's to intimate, to personal. Suspicion falls on the household. Percival, who worked closely with his father, might know about the Mackenzie scandal. Was he covering for Rex? Or did he have his own reasons to want him gone? Lance, who spent years abroad, could have crossed paths with Mackenzie's family or even be connected to them. Miss Marple notices how he avoids questions about his time in Africa, his smile tightening when the subject comes up. Mary Dove, too, is a mystery. Her calm efficiency feels like a mask, and she seems to know more about the family's history than she lets on. Even Crump, the butler, is acting strange, his hands shaking as he serves tea. Miss Marple wonders if he's hiding a secret or if he's simply terrified of being next. The black feather from Ellen's attack nags at her. It came from Adele's hat, but anyone in the house could have taken it. Is the killer planting false clues, or is the feather a genuine slip? As evening falls, Miss Marple takes a walk through the yew trees. her mind racing. The letters point to revenge. But the nursery rhyme suggests something more twisted, a mind that delights in games and riddles. She thinks about the victims. Rex, the king, was the first target. Gladys, a blackbird, saw too much. Adele, the queen, was silenced in her parlour. Ellen, the maid, survived, but for how long? The rhyme has no more clear victims, but Miss Marple fears the killer isn't done. She recalls a detail from the letters. Mackenzie had to. Children, a son and a daughter. Could one of them be in St. Mary Mead, hiding in plain sight? She makes a mental note to check the servants' backgrounds and Lance's travels. The fabric scrapped from the garden, torn from a dark coat, is another clue. She's seen Lance in a dark coat, but so has Crump. Even Percival has one hanging in the hall. The suspense peaks at night. As Miss Marple sits by the fire, a soft knock comes at her door. It's Mary Dove, her face pale. She hands Miss Marple a small, folded paper, found tucked in a book in the library. It's another note. In the same scroll as Gladys's, the blackbirds are watching. Miss Marple's heart races. The killer knows she's getting close, and this feels like a direct challenge. She urges Mary to stay vigilant and shares the note with Inspector Neal, who doubles the guards around the house. But Miss Marple knows. The killer is inside, not out. The note, the feather, the rhyme, they're all part of a performance. And she's determined to unmask the director before the final act. The chapter ends with a heart-stopping moment. As Miss Marple retires to her room, she notices her window is slightly ajar, the curtain swaying. On her pillow lies a single black feather, identical to the one found with Ellen. The killer has been here in her room, leaving a message. She's next. Her hands tremble, but her resolve hardens. The game is on and Miss Marple is ready to play. Can she uncover the killer's identity before they strike again? Stay tuned for Chapter 6, where a surprising ally emerges, and a new clue turns the mystery upside down. If you're gripped by this tale, hit that like button, subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss the next twist. Drop a comment below who do you think left the feather on Miss Marple's pillow? Let's keep unraveling this puzzle together. The darkness over Yew Tree Lodge grows heavier, as if the house itself is holding its breath. 3 murders: Rex Fortescue with his pocket full of rye, Gladys with a cloth espin on her nose, Adele with her poisoned honey and an attack on Ellen, marked by a black feather, have turned St. Mary Mead into a village of whispers and fear. The nursery rhyme, sing a song of sixpence, a pocket full of rye, is the killer's chilling guide. Each verse a step closer to their twisted endgame. Now, a black feather on Miss Marple's pillow sends a clear message. She's getting too close. But Miss Marple, with a quiet strength and razor-sharp mind, isn't backing down. In this chapter, an unexpected ally steps forward and a new clue flips the mystery on its head, tightening the suspense as the killer's shadow looms larger. Let's dive into Chapter 6 of Miss Marple's puzzle of a pocket full of rye and see if we can outsmart a murderer who's always one step ahead. Morning breaks over Yew Tree Lodge, but the sunlight does little to lift the gloom. The police are everywhere, their radios crackling as they search for traces of the intruder who left the feather in Miss Marple's room. Inspector Neal is grim, his patience fraying as the clues pile up without answers. The family is on edge. Percival Fortescue, holed up in his father's study, snaps at anyone who approaches. His eyes bloodshot from sleepless nights, Lance, the charming drifter, is decomposed. His smiles sharp as knives. The servants are unraveling Crump. The butler moves like a man expecting a blow, while Mary Dove, the housekeeper, keeps the house running with an eerie calm. Miss Marple, undeterred by the threat on her pillow, sits in the drawing room, her knitting untouched. The feather was a warning, but it's also a mistake. The killer is nervous, and nervous killers make errors. She's ready to pounce on the next one, The breakthrough comes unexpectedly. Mary Dove. The housekeeper approaches Miss Marple at midday, her face pale but resolute. She's been watching, listening, and she's noticed things the police have missed. "I don't trust anyone in this house," she whispers, glancing over her shoulder. "But I think you're the only one who can stop this." Mary reveals she's been keeping a journal, jotting down odd details since Rex's death. She hands Miss Marple a small notebook. Its pages filled with neat handwriting. It's a goldmine. Times when family members were unaccounted for, overheard. Arguments, strange deliveries to the house. One entry stands out, a note about Lance receiving a package from abroad, postmarked from a town near where Rex's old partner, Mackenzie, once lived. Miss Marple's pulse quickens. Mary, it seems, is more than a housekeeper, she's an ally, and her sharp eyes might just turn the tide. Let's dive into Mary's clues. Her journal mentions a heated exchange between Adele and Lance the night before her death, something about money owed. She also noted Ellen sneaking into Rex's study days before the first murder, rifling through papers. Most intriguing is the package Lance received, a small wooden box delivered a week before Rex died. Mary saw him hide it in his room, and she's certain it's still there. Miss Marple knows a lead when she sees one. She convinces Inspector Neal to search Lance's room, and they find the box tucked under a floorboard. Inside is a collection of old photographs and a single, faded letter. The photos show a young Lance with a man who could be Mackenzie laughing. In what looks like an African mining camp, the letter, addressed to Lance, is cryptic. The blackbirds never forget. You know what to do. It's unsigned, but the handwriting matches the notes found with Gladys and in the library. The killer is connected to Lance, or is it Lance himself? The discovery lights a fire under the investigation. Lance is questioned, but he's slippery, claiming the box is just a memento from his travels. He says he barely knew Mackenzie, just a face from his father's past. But Miss Marple isn't convinced. Lance's return to St. Mary Mead just before. The murders feels too convenient, and his charm is starting to crack. She notices how he avoids looking at the photos, his fingers twitching. Percival, meanwhile, is livid, accusing Lance of dragging the family name through the mud. The brothers' tension is palpable, and Miss Marple wonders if it's more than sibling rivalry. Did Lance come back for revenge, tied to Mackenzie's betrayal? Or is Percival hiding his own secrets, using Lance as a scapegoat? Mary Dove's journal also mentions Percival meeting a stranger in the village days. Before Rex's death, a man in a dark coat, like the fabric scrap found in the garden. Miss Marple digs deeper, her mind weaving connections. The nursery rhyme has guided every crime. Rex, the king, died with rye. Gladys, a blackbird, was silenced. Adele, the queen, fell to poisoned honey. Ellen, the maid, survived her attack. But the rhyme's verses are running out, and Miss Marple fears the killer is improvising now. The black feathers, the notes, the fabric, they're all part of a performance, a story of vengeance. She thinks back to the Mackenzie scandal. Rex's betrayal left a family in ruins, and the letters from Mackenzie's wife spoke of blackbirds coming for justice. Could Lance be Mackenzie's son, raised on tales of revenge, or is someone else in the house Mary? Crump, even Percival playing a role in this deadly drama? Miss Marple asks Mary to keep watching, to note anything unusual, but to stay safe. The killer knows they're being hunted, and that makes them dangerous. The suspense peaks that evening. As Miss Marple walks the halls, she hears a creak on the staircase. She freezes, clutching the banister, her eyes scanning the shadows. A figure moves in the darkness, too quick to identify, and then it's gone. Her heart pounds, but she steadies herself. She checks her room before entering. No feathers this time. but a faint smell of tobacco lingers once she's noticed around Lance. Is he the killer? Or is someone framing him? She shares the new clues with Inspector Neil, who's now digging into Lance's past and the mysterious stranger Percival met. The police are closing in, but Miss Marple knows the killer won't wait. The house feels like a trap, every corner, hiding a threat. The chapter closes with a chilling moment. As Miss Marple sits by the fire, Mary Dove slips her another note, found tucked in a kitchen drawer. It's a single line. In that same scrawled hand, the blackbirds sing at midnight. The clock chimes 11 and Miss Marple's skin prickles. Time is running out, and the killer's next move is coming. Can she and her new ally uncover the truth before midnight strikes? Stay tuned for Chapter 7, where a shocking betrayal. The clock is ticking in Yew-Tree Lodge, and the air is thick with dread. 3 murders Rex Fortescue with his rye-filled pocket, Gladys with a cloth espin, Adele with her poisoned honey, and an attack on Ellen, marked by a black feather, have turned St. Mary Mead into a village gripped by fear. A feather on Miss Marple's pillow and a cryptic note, the blackbirds sing at midnight. Prove the killer is watching her every move. The nursery rhyme, sing a song of sixpence. A pocket full of rye. Is the murderer's twisted? Script, but its verses are running out. Miss Marple, with her quiet resolve and Mary Dove's sharp-eyed help, is closing in on the truth. In this chapter, a shocking betrayal comes to light, and a new clue pushes the mystery to the edge of unraveling. The suspense is suffocating as midnight looms. Let's dive into Chapter 7 of Miss Marple's puzzle of a pocket full of rye and see if we can catch the killer before they strike again. It's late afternoon, and Yew-Tree Lodge feels like a house under a curse. The police are combing every room, their faces grim as they chase leads that seem to vanish like smoke. Inspector Neil is focused on Lance Fortescue, whose mysterious box and African connections point to the Mackenzie scandal, a betrayal that left her family ruined and may now be fueling a killer's revenge. Percival Fortescue is a nervous wreck, his hands shaking as he clutches his father's ledgers, muttering about ruin. The servants are barely holding on. Crump, the butler, avoids eye contact, while Mary Dove moves with a quiet intensity. Her journal now Miss Marple's secret weapon. Miss Marple sits in the library, the note about blackbirds singing at midnight burning in her mind. The killer is planning something, and the hour is near. She's determined to uncover the truth, but the house feels like a maze of lies, and every step could be a trap. The breakthrough comes from an unexpected source. Mary Dove pulls Miss Marple aside, her voice low. She's found something in the attic, a dusty trunk filled with old papers. Hidden behind a pile of forgotten furniture, they sneak upstairs, the floorboards creaking underfoot. Inside the trunk, they find a ledger from Rex's early days in the mining business. Its pages filled with cryptic notes about blackbird shares. Miss Marple's eyes narrow. The term blackbirds appears again and again, linked to payments made to a man named Mackenzie. But there's more. A letter, tucked between the pages, written in a familiar scrawl. It's from Mackenzie's daughter, Vivian, dated just months ago. You thought you buried us, but the blackbirds never forget. Your time is coming. The handwriting matches the notes found with Gladys in the library and on Miss Marple's pillow. Vivian Mackenzie is alive, and she's in St. Mary Mead, or someone wants it to look that way. The discovery is a bombshell, but it's what Mary reveals next that shakes Miss Marple to her core. She confesses she's not just a housekeeper, she's been investigating the Fortescues for months, hired by a lawyer representing Mackenzie's family. Mary's real name is Mary Mackenzie, Vivian's cousin, sent to uncover proof of Rex's fraud. She didn't expect murder, but she's been watching the family closely, which is why she noticed Lance's package and Ellen's snooping. Miss Marple's mind races. Mary's betrayal stings she's been an ally, but her hidden agenda raises questions. Is she truly helping, or is she playing a deeper game? Could she be the killer, using the rhyme to mask her own revenge? Mary insists. She's innocent, her eyes pleading, but Miss Marple knows better than to trust anyone fully. She thanks Mary for the truth and urges her to keep quiet, promising to protect her secret for now. The ledger and letter point to a motive: revenge for the Mackenzie family's ruin. Miss Marple pieces together the timeline. Rex cheated Mackenzie out of a fortune, leaving his family destitute. Mackenzie died under mysterious circumstances and his wife and children vanished. Now, someone is using the nursery rhyme to exact justice. Rex, the king, was the first to fall. Gladys, a blackbird, saw too much. Adele, the queen, was silenced. Ellen, the maid, was a warning. But who is Vivian Mackenzie? Miss Marple suspects she's close, perhaps posing as a servant or even a family member. She re-examines the household. Lance, with his African connections and mysterious box, is a prime suspect. His charm hides a calculating mind, and the photos with Mackenzie suggest a deeper tie. Percival, obsessed with the family fortune, might be covering up his father's sins or his own. Even Crump, the quiet butler, could be more than he seems. His nervous glances hint at guilt or fear. Miss Marple shares the ledger with Inspector Neil, keeping Mary's true identity under wraps. He's stunned by the blackbird shares and orders a deeper investigation into Mackenzie's family. He also pulls Lance in for questioning again, pressing him about the letter in his box. Lance claims ignorance, but his eyes flicker when Vivian's name is mentioned. Miss Marple notices, filing it away. She also asks Neil to check the village for newcomers, someone who might be Vivian in disguise. Meanwhile, she keeps an eye on Percival, who's been avoiding the attic since the murders began. Did he know about the ledger? And what about the fabric scrap from the garden? Torn from a dark coat, she's seen both Lance and Crump in similar coats, but Percival has one too, hanging in the hall. The clues are piling up, but there are. Jigsaw with missing pieces dot as midnight approaches. The house grows quiet. The ticking clock a heartbeat in the silence. Miss Marple sits in her room, the feather from her pillow now locked in a drawer. She rereads the latest note. The blackbirds sing at midnight. Is it a threat, a clue, or a distraction? She hears a soft thud downstairs, like a door closing. Slipping into the hall, she moves silently, her senses sharp. In the kitchen, she finds Crump, his hands shaking as he pours a glass of water. He jumps when he sees her, spilling it. Couldn't sleep, he mumbles, but his eyes dart to the garden. Miss Marple's heart races. Is Crump the killer, or is he another victim in waiting? She returns to her room, locking the door, but sleep is impossible. The killer is close, and midnight is minutes away. The chapter ends with a heart-stopping moment as the clock strikes 12, a low, eerie whistle echoes through the house's sound like a bird's call, sharp and unnatural. Miss Marple grips her chair, her mind racing. The blackbirds are singing, just as the note promised. Is it a signal, a taunt, or the prelude to another murder? She knows she's running out of time to stop the killer's end game. Stay tuned for Chapter 8, where a desperate move uncovers a hidden truth, and the nursery rhyme's final act draws near. If you're gripped by this mystery, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next twist. Drop a comment below. Do you think Mary Dove is trustworthy? Or is she hiding more than she's revealed? Let's keep unraveling this puzzle together. The midnight whistle still echoes in Miss Marple's ears, a chilling note that cuts through the silence of Yew Tree Lodge. 3 murders: Rex Fortescue with his rye, Gladys with a cloth espin, Adele with her poisoned honey and an attack on Ellen, marked by a black feather, have turned the manor into a house of ghosts. A feather on Miss Marple's pillow and a note the blackbirds sing at midnight prove the killer is closing in, taunting her with every move. The nursery rhyme, sing a song of sixpence, a pocket full of rye has guided each crime, but its verses are nearly spent, with Merry Dove's shocking revelation as Mackenzie's cousin and a ledger linking the murders to a decades-old betrayal. Miss Marple is closer to the truth than ever. In this chapter, a desperate move uncovers a hidden truth, and the killer's endgame comes into focus as the suspense reaches a fever pitch. Let's dive into Chapter 8 of Miss Marple's puzzle of a pocket full of rye, and see if we can catch the blackbird before it sings again. Dawn breaks over St. Mary Mead, but Yew Tree Lodge remains shrouded in fear. The police are stretched thin, their search for Vivian Mackenzie yielding nothing but dead ends. Inspector Neil is grilling Lance Fortescue about his ties to the Mackenzie family. But Lance's answers are slick, his charm a thin veneer over something darker. Percival Fortescue is unraveling, his obsession with the family fortune bordering on paranoia. The servants are shadows of themselves. Crump, the butler, jumps at every sound, while Merry Dove, now revealed as Mary Mackenzie, watches the house with a wary eye. Miss Marple, her mind sharp despite the sleepless night, is piecing together the clues, the ledgers blackbird shares, the letters from Mackenzie's daughter, the fabric scrap, the feathers. The whistle at midnight was no coincidence, it was the killer's signal, a promise of what's to come. She knows she must act fast before the blackbird's song claims another victim. Miss Marple's desperate move comes at mid-morning. She convinces Inspector Neil to stage a trap. Using the nursery rhyme as bait, they spread a rumor through the house that Miss Marple has found a key piece of evidence, a document that names the killer, and will reveal it at dusk in the library. It's a lie, but a calculated one. The killer is bold, driven by ego, and Miss Marple bets they won't resist a chance to silence her. She asks Merry Dove to help spread the rumor, watching her closely. Murray's loyalty is still uncertain. Her Mackenzie connection makes her a suspect. Even if she's been helpful, the household buzzes with tension as the rumor takes hold. Percival grows pale, muttering about family secrets. Lance laughs it off, but his eyes dart to the library door. Crump drops a tray, his nerves shot. Miss Marple feels the net tightening, but she knows the killer will strike before dusk if they sense the trap. The day crawls by, each hour heavy with anticipation. Miss Marple spends it digging deeper, revisiting the clues. She examines the ledger, again noticing a detail she missed. A coded entry about Blackbird shares transferred to a trust, signed by Rex and an unknown partner. Could this partner be the key? She also thinks about the fabric scrap from the garden. Torn from a dark coat, she's seen Lance, Percival, and Crump in similar coats. But Merry Dove wears a dark shawl that could match. Miss Marple visits Ellen in the hospital, now recovering, and learns she overheard a conversation about blackbirds between Rex and someone else. Someone with a low, smooth voice. Lance, or perhaps Mary. Ellen's memory is foggy, but it's another thread in the web. Miss Marple also discovers that the exotic black feathers aren't from Adele's hat. After all, they match a rare bird from Africa, tying back to Rex's mining days. The killer is weaving a story of revenge, and every clue points to Mackenzie's shadow. As dusk approaches, the trap is set. The library is dimly lit, the ledger and letters laid out like bait. Inspector Neil hides nearby with two officers, while Miss Marple sits at the desk, her knitting in her lap, a picture of calm. But her heart is racing. She's gambling with her life. The house is quiet to quiet as the clock ticks toward evening. Then a creak on the stairs. A shadow moves in the hall, and the library door inches open. It's Crump, his face pale, a knife glinting in his hand. "You know too much," he whispers, stepping forward. But before he can act, Niels' officers pounce, pinning him to the floor. Crump struggles, shouting about blackbirds and dead sewed. Miss Marple's trap worked, but her relief is short-lived. Crump's confession is frantic. Incoherent, he admits to planting the feathers and the notes, but swears he didn't kill anyone. He was following orders, he says, from someone he won't name. The real killer is still out there. The revelation is a gut punch. Crump was a pawn, not the mastermind. Miss Marple presses him, her voice gentle but firm. He mumbles about a woman's voice, someone who knew about the Mackenzie scandal and promised him money to help settle the score. Vivian Mackenzie, or someone closer like Mary? Miss Marple's mind races back to the clues, the handwriting on the notes, the African feathers, the trust in the ledger. She suspects the killer is manipulating the household, using Crump to plant false clues while they hide in plain sight. Lance is still a suspect his African ties, and evasive answers are too suspicious. Percival's obsession with the fortune suggests he might be protecting a secret, and Mary, with a hidden identity, could be playing both sides. The whistle at midnight, the blackbird singing, was a signal to Crump, but it came from someone else. The chapter closes with a heart-stopping moment. As Miss Marple leaves the library, she finds another note slipped under her door, in that same scrawled hand. The blackbirds end it. "Tonight." The handwriting is identical to Vivian's letter, but something feels off, a slight tremor in the ink, as if written in haste. The killer knows the trap failed, and they're ready to finish their game. Miss Marple locks a door, her mind racing. The nursery rhyme has no more verses, but the killer's story isn't done. Who is pulling the strings, and who will they target next? Stay tuned for Chapter 9, where Miss Marple makes a daring move to unmask the killer, and the truth behind the blackbirds comes to light. If you're hooked on this mystery, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next twist. Drop a comment below. Do you think Crump is telling the truth? Or is he covering for someone else? Let's keep unraveling this puzzle together. The walls of Yew Tree Lodge seem to close in, each shadow hiding a threat. 3 murders: Rex Fortescue with his pocket of rye, Gladys with a cloth espin, Adele with her poisoned honey, and an attack on Ellen, marked by a black feather, have left St. Mary Mead trembling. A feather on Miss Marple's pillow and a chilling note: the blackbirds ended tonight. Prove the killer is circling closer, their game nearing its deadly climax. The nursery rhyme, "Sing a song of sixpence, a pocket full of rye," has guided every crime, but its verses are spent. Crump's confession as a pawn, manipulated by a mysterious woman, has cracked the case open, but the true killer remains hidden, with Mary Dove's Mackenzie connection and clues tying the murders to a decades-old betrayal. Miss Marple is on the edge of the truth. In this chapter, she makes a daring move to unmask the killer, and the blackbird's identity is finally revealed. Let's dive into Chapter 9 of Miss Marple's puzzle of a pocket full of rye as the suspense peaks, and the net closes. It's late afternoon, and Yew Tree Lodge is a powder keg. The police are on high alert after Crump's arrest, but his claim of being a pawn has Inspector Neal rattled. The killer is still free, and the note about the blackbirds ending it tonight suggests a final act is coming. Percival Fortescue is a wreck, barricaded in the study, his fear of losing the family fortune palpable. Lance Fortescue, cool and evasive, watches everyone with a predator's gaze. Mary Dove, now known as Mary Mackenzie, sticks close to Miss Marple, her journal a lifeline of clues. Crump, in custody, is still muttering about a woman's voice and dead-sewed. Miss Marple, her mind sharper than ever, knows the killer is in the house, someone who's woven the nursery rhyme into a tapestry of revenge. The ledgers. Blackbird shares the African feathers. The notes in Vivian Mackenzie's handwriting, it all points to a vendetta. But the final piece is missing. Tonight, she'll force it into the open. Miss Marple's daring move is a gamble. She gathers the household in the drawing room, claiming she's found the killer's identity in the ledger. It's a half-truth she's pieced together enough to suspect, but she needs a reaction to confirm it. She lays out the clues: Rex's betrayal of Mackenzie, the blackbird shares that funded his fortune, the letters from Vivian demanding justice. She mentions the notes, the feathers, and Crump's confession, watching each face closely. Percival fidgets, his hands twisting. Lance leans back, his smile tight. Merrydove stands quietly, her eyes unreadable. Miss Marple drops a bombshell. Vivian Mackenzie is here, in this house, and she's been pulling the strings. The room erupts. Percival shouts that it's impossible. Lance laughs, calling it a fairy tale. But Mary steps forward, her voice shaking. Vivian is dead, she says. I saw her grave in Africa. Someone's using her name. Miss Marple nods, her trap set. The killer's ego won't let them stay silent. The truth breaks when Lance cracks. He stands, his charm gone, his voice cold. You're clever, old lady, but you're wrong. Vivian's dead, but her cause isn't. He admits to knowing Mackenzie's family, to hearing their stories of ruin, but he points at Percival. He knew about the shares. He helped father bury the scandal. Percival lunges, shouting that Lance is lying, that he's the one with blood on his hands. In the chaos, Mary slips out, and Miss Marple's heart sinks. She follows, finding Mary in the garden near the yew trees, holding a vial of taxine. It was me, Mary whispers, tears streaming. I'm not Vivian, but I'm her cousin. Rex destroyed us. I used the rhyme to make him pay, to make them all pay. She confesses to poisoning Rex and Adele, to silencing Gladys for eavesdropping, to attacking Ellen as a warning. Crump was her pawn, planting feathers and notes to confuse the trail. The blackbirds were her symbol of justice, inspired by Mackenzie's letters. Miss Marple's voice is gentle but firm. Why me, Mary? The feather on my pillow. Mary's eyes are wild. You were too close. I had to scare you off. Before she can act, Inspector kneels, officers surround her, alerted by Miss Marple's signal. Mary drops the vial, sobbing, as she's taken into custody. The truth is out. Merrydove, driven by years of bitterness, used her role as housekeeper to infiltrate the house, her knowledge of the Mackenzie scandal fueling her revenge. The nursery rhyme was a flourish, a way to taunt the family she blamed. Lance and Percival were suspects, their secrets making them easy targets for suspicion. But Mary was the mastermind, hiding behind her quiet efficiency. The house falls silent as Mary is led away. Miss Marple pieces together the final clues. The African feathers were from a collection Mary found in the attic. The handwriting mimicked Vivian's to throw off the trail. The blackbird shares with a motive. A fortune stolen from Mackenzie's family. The note about blackbirds. Singing at midnight was Mary's final taunt, meant to coincide with her plan to poison the entire household. Miss Marple's trap saved them. Her keen eye spotting Mary's slip her to perfect knowledge of the house's secrets. Neil shakes his head, marveling at her insight. You're a wonder, Miss Marple. He says. She smiles, her knitting resumed, but her heart is heavy. Revenge, she knows, is a poison as deadly as taxine. The chapter ends with Miss Marple gazing at the yew trees, the weight of the case settling. The blackbird's song is silenced, but its echo lingers. She stopped a killer, but the scars on St. Mary Mead will take time to heal. One chapter remains to tie up the loose ends. Stay tuned for Chapter 10, where the aftermath unfolds and Miss Marple reflects on the cost of justice. If you're gripped by this mystery, Smash that like button. The fog over St. Mary Mead begins to lift, but the scars of Utri Lodge remain raw. 3 murders Rex Fortescue with his pocket full of rye, Gladys with a cloth espin, Adele with her poisoned honey and an attack on Ellen, marked by a black feather, have shaken the village to its core. Mary Dove, revealed as Mary Mackenzie, confessed to orchestrating the killings, driven by a decades-old grudge against Rex for ruining her family. The nursery rhyme, sing a song of sixpence, a pocket full of rye, was a twisted script, a veil for her revenge. Miss Marple's daring trap unmasked the killer, but the cost of justice weighs heavily. In this final chapter, the aftermath unfolds, loose ends are tied, and Miss Marple reflects on the darkness of vengeance and the fragility of truth. Let's close the book on Miss Marple's puzzle of a pocket full of rye and see how the pieces fall. It's a quiet morning in Utri Lodge, the first without fear in days. The police are packing up, their radios silent as they cart away evidence. Inspector Neal is preparing his report, still marveling at Miss Marple's insight. Mary Mackenzie is in custody, her confession detailing how she infiltrated the household, used the nursery rhyme to stage her crimes, and manipulated Crump to plant feathers and notes. The family is fractured. Percival Fortescue, pale and shaken, sits in the study, grappling with his father's legacy of greed. Lance Fortescue, his charm dimmed, plans to leave St. Mary Mead. His secrets exposed but not criminal. Crump, released after cooperating, is a broken man, haunted by his role as a pawn. Ellen, recovering in the hospital, sends word of thanks to Miss Marple, who sits in the drawing room, her knitting needles clicking softly. The case is solved, but the echoes of the blackbirds linger. Miss Marple pieces together the final threads. She visits the attic one last time, examining the trunk where Mary found the ledger and feathers. The blackbird shares with the heart of the motive. Rex's theft of Mackenzie's fortune, hidden in coded entries, fueled Mary's rage. The letters from Vivian Mackenzie, Mary's cousin, were real, but Vivian's death years ago meant Mary took up her cause, forging notes in her handwriting to mislead. The African feathers, a relic from Rex's mining days, were a personal touch, tying the crimes to his past. Gladys died because she overheard Mary planning in the kitchen. Adele was targeted for her role in Rex's lavish life. Ellen's attack was a warning to stop snooping. Miss Marple realizes Mary's obsession with the nursery rhyme was both her genius and her downfall a pattern so bold it begged to be noticed. The feather on Miss Marple's pillow was a desperate move, a sign Mary knew the net was closing. The village is slowly healing. Miss Marple walks through St. Mary Mead, passing villagers who whisper her name with awe. At the vicarage, she shares tea with an old friend, reflecting on the case. Revenge is a poison, she says, her voice soft. Mary thought she was serving justice, but she became what she despised. She learns from Inspector Neal that the Mackenzie family will receive some restitution. Rex's fortune, tainted by fraud, is being redistributed. Percival, humbled, agrees to cooperate, though his inheritance is diminished. Lance, cleared of murder but not suspicion, leaves for London. His ties to Mackenzie's son confirmed but irrelevant now. Miss Marple feels a pang for Mary, whose pain drove her to madness, but justice, she knows, is impartial. The nursery rhyme, once a chilling guide, is just a song again, its power broken. Loose ends are tied. The fabric scrapped from the garden matched Mary's shawl, a careless mistake that Miss Marple used to confirm her suspicions. The blackbirds sing at midnight note was Mary's final taunt, meant to coincide with a plan to poison the household's dinner, thwarted by Miss Marple's trap. Crump's role was minor. He planted clues under duress, fearing for his job. Ellen's recovery brings relief, her testimony about overhearing Mary sealing the case. Miss Marple visits her, offering kind words and a warning to let the past rest. As she leaves Yew Tree Lodge, she passes the yew trees, their dark berries, a reminder of the poison that started it all. The house will be sold, its ghosts are heavy for the Fortescues to bear. St. Mary Mead will move on, but the tale of the blackbirds will linger in its folklore. The chapter closes with Miss Marple at home, her cottage a haven of calm. She sits by her window, knitting a scarf, her mind drifting. The puzzle is solved, but the cost was high. 3 lives lost, a family broken, a village shaken. She thinks of the rhyme, its childish words hiding a killer's intent. We're all capable of darkness, she muses, but it's the light of truth that saves us. She sets her needles down, her work done, and looks out at the village, peaceful once more. The blackbirds are silent, and Miss Marple is ready for whatever mystery comes next. That's the end of Miss Marple's puzzle of a pocket full of rye. If this journey through suspense and secrets gripped you, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell to catch more mysteries. Drop a comment below. What did you think of Mary's motive? And were you surprised by the twist? Share your thoughts, and let's keep the conversation going. Thank you for unraveling this puzzle with me. Until the next case, stay curious and stay sharp.